Scythe by Neal Shusterman. Published by Simon and Schuster. Chapter 4. Learner's Permit to Kill. Forget what you think you know about scythes. Leave behind your preconceived notions. Your education begins today. Citra could not believe she was actually going through with this. What secret self-destructive part of herself had asserted its will over her? What had possessed her to accept the apprenticeship? Now there was no backing out. Yesterday, on the third day of the new year, Scythe Faraday had come to her apartment and given a year's immunity to her father and brother. He added several months onto her mother's so their immunity would all expire at the same time. Of course, if Citra was chosen to be a full Scythe, their immunity would become permanent. Her parents were tearful when she left. Citra wondered whether they were tears of sorrow, joy, or relief. Perhaps a combination of all three. "We know you'll do great things in this world," her father had said. And she wondered what about bringing death could be considered great. Do not be so arrogant as to think you have a license to glean. The license is mine and mine alone. At most you have, shall we say, a learner's permit. I will, however, require at least one of you to be present at each of my gleanings. And if I ask you to assist, you will. Citra unceremoniously withdrew from school and said goodbye to friends in awkward little conversations. It's not like I won't be around, I just won't be at school anymore. But who was she kidding? Accepting this apprenticeship put her on the outside of an impenetrable wall. It was both demoralizing yet heartening to know that life would go on without her. And it occurred to her that being a scythe was like being the living dead. In the world, but apart from it. Just a witness to the comings and goings of others. We are above the law, but that does not mean we live in defiance of it. Our position demands a level of morality beyond the rule of law. We must strive for incorruptibility and must assess our motives on a daily basis. While she did not wear a ring, Citra was given an armband to identify her as a scythe's apprentice. Rowan had one too. Bright green bands bearing the curved blade of a farmer's scythe above an unblinking eye. The double symbol of the scythehood. That symbol would become a tattoo on the arm of the chosen apprentice. Not that anyone would ever see the tattoo, for scythes are never seen in public without their robes. Citra had to tell herself that there was an out. She could fail to perform. She could be a lousy apprentice. She could sabotage herself so completely that Honorable Scythe Faraday would be forced to choose Rowan and return her to her family at the end of the year. The problem was that Citra was very bad at doing things half-assed. It would be much harder for her to fail than to succeed. I will not tolerate any romantic notions between the two of you, so banish the thought from your mind now. Citra had looked over at Rowan when the scythe said that, and Rowan had shrugged. Not a problem, he said, which irritated Citra. At the very least, he could have voiced some minor disappointment. Yeah, Citra said. No hope of that, with or without the rule. Rowan just grinned at that, which made her even more annoyed. You shall study history, the great philosophers, the sciences. You will come to understand the nature of life and what it means to be human before you are permanently charged with the taking of life. You will also study all forms of killcraft and become experts. Like Citra, Rowan found himself unsettled by his decision to take this on, but he was not going to show it, especially not to Citra. And in spite of the blasé attitude he showed her, he was, in fact, attracted to her. But he knew even before the scythe forbade them that such a pursuit could not end well. They were adversaries, after all. Like Citra, Rowan had stood beside Scythe Faraday as the man held out his ring to each member of his family, offering them immunity. His brothers, sisters, half-siblings, grandma, and her all-too-perfect husband, who Rowan suspected might actually be a bot. Each in turn knelt respectfully and kissed the ring, transmitting their DNA to the worldwide immunity database in the Scythedom's own special cloud separate and apart from the Thunderhead. The rule was that all members of an apprentice's household would receive immunity for 1 year, and there were 19 people in Rowan's sprawling household. His mother had mixed feelings, because now no one would move out for at least a year, to make sure their immunity would become permanent once Rowan's received his scythe ring. If he got the ring. The only glitch had been when the ring vibrated, giving off a little alarm, refusing immunity to his grandmother's new husband because he was a bot after all. You shall live as I do, modestly and subsisting on the goodwill of others. You will take no more than you need, and waste nothing. People will attempt to buy your friendship. They will lavish things upon you. Accept nothing but the barest of human necessities. Faraday had brought Rowan and Citra to his home to begin their new lives. It was a bungalow in a run-down part of the city that Rowan hadn't even known existed. People playing at poverty, he had told them, because no one was impoverished anymore. Austerity was a choice, for there were always those who shunned the plenty of the post-mortal world. Faraday's home was Spartan. Little decoration, unimpressive furniture. Rowan's room had space only for a bed and a small dresser. Citra, at least, had a window, but the view was of a brick wall. I will not tolerate childish pastimes or vapid communications with friends. Commitment to this life means leaving behind your old life as fully as possible. When, a year from now, I choose between you, the unchosen one can return to his or her former life easily enough. But for now, consider that life a part of your past. Once they were settled in, he didn't allow them to brood over their circumstances. As Rowan had unpacked his bags, the Scythe announced that they were going to the market. To glean? Rowan asked, more than a little sick at the prospect. No, to get food for the two of you, Faraday had told them. Unless you'd prefer to eat my leftovers. Citra smirked at Rowan for asking, as if she hadn't been worrying about that herself. I liked you a lot more before I knew you, he told her. You still don't know me, she answered, which was true. Then she sighed, and for the first time since their night at the opera, she offered up something more than attitude. We're being forced to live together and forced to compete at something neither of us wants to compete over. I know it's not your fault, but it doesn't exactly put us in a friendly place. I know, Rowan admitted. After all, Citra didn't know all the tension between them. But that still doesn't mean we can't have each other's backs. She didn't answer him. He didn't expect her to. It was just a seed he wanted to plant. Over the past 2 months, he had learned that no one had his back anymore. Perhaps no one ever did. His friends had pulled away. He was a footnote in his own family. There was only one person now who shared his plight. That was Citra. If they couldn't find a way to trust each other, then what did they have beyond a learner's permit to kill?